Hello and welcome to my very first watch review. And what better way to showcase and introduce watch reviews is with an Omega Speedmaster automatic from the early 1990s era. So what I wanted to do is give you guys more of an average Joe type review, but also hit on the points that I feel as though is necessary when I buy a watch and I look at reviews on YouTube. These are the points that I'm going to give to you. So hopefully you find this review very informative and all-inclusive to all your needs. So let's get started. First and foremost, let me just point out the elephant in the room that I know that this is not the original box that comes in this Omega. For those of you that did realize that, you are true enthusiasts, and I give you a point for that. This is definitely a nostalgic case from, I believe, the 70s. It's got that velvet, it's plastic, it's got that, wood look, but it's all plastic. It's really cheap and very laughable, but for those that have a history with these watches would definitely feel a sense of nostalgia with this. But it showcases this watch very nicely for this particular review. So let's jump right into it. We have a 38mm Omega Speedmaster automatic from the date of around 1993 to 94. When I did my research based off the serial number, that is the conclusion that I came up with. It's very hard with these particular watches to pinpoint the exact, I guess you could say, birth date of the watch, but you can kind of get a range. So that's the range that I came up with. As you can see, it has multiple complications, which is what attracted me to this watch. It has, let's start off at the 9 o'clock position. It has the sweeping second hand. It has the GMT. So we are actually at 6 o'clock. And it says 6 here in the GMT, which would state that it's 6 a.m. GMT basically is Greenwich Medium Time, which is basically, it's a fancy word for Army time, okay? 600 hours. Then we have our second hand here for the chronograph stopwatch feature. Listen closely. It's got that very quality stiff click, and again you see the sweeping second hand. You stop it at the same pusher and reset it, and it snaps right back to 0, or should I say 12. So we have that complication, and then we have the day of the week, we have the month, and we have the date. And then, of course, it tells time. So anything about a watch, telling time's a complication. Chronograph function is a complication. The date is a complication. Day of the week, complication. Month, complication. And the GMT is a complication. So as you can see, it has a multitude of complications, which from a Swiss movement, being at a price range in 2018 at just under $2,000, anywhere from the point of, I would say, 1,400 to 1,600 range. Pretty impressive, especially for an Omega. This watch is almost 30 years old, being 2018. The watches do hold their value. Once they reach a sweet spot, they pretty much hold their value from there. So, almost like a car in a way that when you drive it off the lot, it loses most of its value. Same thing with a watch. Once you buy it brand new, you're absorbing most of the depreciation once you wear it. But once it gets to a sweet spot, which it is right now, it's going to stay at this range for a very long time. So buying used pieces, I personally like doing, because I like the fact that the original owner, has absorbed a lot of that depreciation. But unlike a car that continues to depreciate as you drive it, This particular watch does not have an odometer, and I could wear this timepiece for the next couple years and still should be able to make my money back and at least break even. So that's a great point about owning a watch that you should take in consideration. And it also definitely goes over well with the girlfriends or the wife when you justify buying such an expensive timepiece. So hopefully that goes over well for you, because it definitely went over well in my case. Sorry, honey. So let's get into how we set this particular watch. Let's start off by the least obvious, which is the day of the week. We take our trusty pen here and we would press this little, it's not even a pusher. Let me try to get that. There we go. You could see that you could actually push this in, and I'm trying to do this as I'm filming. And there we go. Friday. Okay? I'm not going to try that again because that was very tough. Holding a camera in one hand, holding this steady in the other. Okay. So, I actually have the next complication we're going to go to is the month. We click it out to the first position and we wind down, and I'm sorry, I'm actually wrong, because what we're going to do, in order to change the month, we have to go around the world with our date wheel, which we do have set at the first position, and we just go around and around. So you're setting the date, and obviously when we get past the 31 point, you're going to watch the wheel spin to September and so on and so forth. Okay? Obviously the next crown position is the hour, and you set that just like any other watch. Now the newer Omegas, which is the Omega that I'm actually trading up for with this watch, the Planet Ocean, when you set the time, you could actually set it one of two ways. There's one function where you could actually set it just the hour hand. So if you're changing time zones, you just change the hour hand and not have to go around the world. And obviously then you could do it the traditional way as well. So that's pretty neat, but obviously not a function that's needed, at least for me. Okay, so we set this back into place. It is not a screw down crown. Okay, the crown, in my opinion, is kind of difficult to maneuver. It does have the Omega logo. Okay, it doesn't have a round feature. It is kind of like a stop sign, like a, what do you call that, octagon type shape. But you know, I don't have large hands, and yet I have a hard time winding this piece. So that's one tiny gripe. But if you hadn't guessed just by looking at this review, depending on the lighting, like right here, the hands are almost invisible. So here's my major gripe about this watch. It's got too many hands going on, and they're all one tone. They're all silver tone. Okay? Against a white face, it is very difficult to just look down at your timepiece and figure out the time in a jiffy. And that, to me, really has turned me off about this watch. Because I'm going to tell you, it's a very handsome watch, but the layout, you know, I can't even complain about the layout. There just wasn't a lot of thought put behind this particular model's hands. Because I know that when you buy a later version of the Speedmaster, they do have an arrow at the end of the GMT function. But I don't know if they do a lot of differentiating with the hands, again, with like color contrasting or whatnot. You know, that to me is a big problem, and I think that's why this is not a very popular watch in this community. And the only way that I realized that was by wearing this on a daily basis, and I really found out very quickly that this is a very hard to read watch when you look at it from a glance. Okay? Now, let's get to another negative. So the next negative I have for you is the clasp. The clasp is, I guess you could say it's kind of a typical early 90s kind of type of clasp, but you still expected a little bit better quality. maybe like a single piece of stainless steel, you know, that kind of fits in like a puzzle piece, not this generic look. And you know what? I mean, even the clasp itself, it's not a solid block like the later version of the Seamaster. Now, I will give it to them that they do have a nice embossing of the Omega logo, and they do have the Speedmaster etched in there. But the clasp is just not quality. Okay, even when you click it, take a listen. Here we go. I mean, it's not going anywhere, but I just don't have that feel that I've felt in other Omega models. Do we, you know, is this a make it or break it point for me? No, it's a minor complaint. As I said, the hands are definitely the one that really broke the camel's back there. I do like the detail here. If I can get this in focus, here we go. It is the Seamaster. It is embossed, almost kind of like a waffle pattern in the background. Very quality. And you got the Omega logo there. This is the 813 link. It is a very chunky link. As you can see here, a lot of flexibility. It's not a... Listen, the whole bracelet is not cheap. It's the clasp itself, but the bracelet itself is quality. I love the bracelet. It's one of my favorite features of this watch. It's got a lot of this flexibility. It doesn't grasp the hairs on the arm, and it's very, very light. And the watch it's very comfortable on the wrist. You know, I'm actually kind of sad to see this watch go. I mean, I was even getting to the point where I was actually going to custom fit different color hands, but I really want to stay true to the heritage of this watch. And you know, to be honest with you, this actually is going to find a new home. We're making a trade for a Planet Ocean, and the particular guy that I'm trading with, he appreciates the vintage watches, and we're just gonna, you know, we're gonna be happy. So this is gonna go to a good home. So that is my review of the Omega Speedmaster Automatic. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave a comment down below. If you liked my first review and would like to see more, please like and subscribe. Until then, I will see you next time. Thank you very much. Have a good day.